I think Chief Fraser introduced the people that are going to do the presentation today.
Thanks, Chair Stearns. I'm going to turn it over to Greg, who has organized this as I was away on vacation. So Acting Deputy Chief Sands, please go ahead.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Sergeant Paul Doak, who's currently the sergeant in charge of our emergency response unit and our canine unit, and Constable Jeff Dixon and the police service dog Dak. So thank you very much for being here. If you can take it away. Thank you.
If he gets too angry, you can just take it.
I'll give you this when you're ready to talk. If you just turn that on.
Just hit it?
Just
Tap it?
go through the slides.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Come on. Good. Thanks. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having us. It's probably been about 10 years since I've addressed the board. I think the last time was 2012 or 2013 in regards to our canine program. I know there's going to be questions at the end, but I've put together a quick slideshow, but I'm going to zip through it. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask at the end. I know there usually is about the dog. And I know you do have limited time today. So I've been asked to speak briefly on the emergency services side of thing in our organization, which encompasses a few things: incident command and negotiators. The two sections that I'm in charge of right now is the canine unit and the emergency response unit. It's a small part of our organization in terms of what we do, but it's an important one. It requires a lot of training, and I always say we kind of respond to the high risk, low frequency type calls. So I'll introduce myself, and then I'll introduce Jeff here. So my name is Paul Doak, as Deputy Chief Sands mentioned, and I'm presently in charge of both units. So I'm kind of doing double duty right now. I actually have a working dog named Basque as well, and I'll show him on the slideshow in a sec. I didn't plan it that way, but that's kind of where I am in my life right now. So Jeff here, Jeff's a 24-year veteran. He started with Peel Regional Police and then came to Kingston in 1999. He's been in canine, I think, since the summer of 2010. I was a lone handler at that time, and then Jeff came on, and there was two of us, which made life way easier for me and my young family. So Jeff's still plugging away. His dog now is Dak, and he's about 4 years old, and he's a mixed German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois is his dog. So just a bit about myself really quickly. I said I'm from Kingston. I went to Queens. So if there's any spelling mistakes on here, the Faculty of Education, I'm sure I'll reach out and remind me of that. I went here. I started with the OPP in 1996, and I came to Kingston in 98 with amalgamation into Pittsburgh Township. Started in ERU in 1999, way back. I did that for 3 years, and then started in K9 in 2002 with my first dog, Scout. Did that for a number of years. Had actually 4 dogs in total. Went through probably the best of times and the worst of times. I lost a dog in 2006, and Jeff lost his dog a few years back, and it pulls at the heartstrings for sure, but we worked through that, and we're still plugging away. Like I said, I took Basque over in late 2020, but I think we're in good shape now. The one thing I am proud of, in 2010, I was able to facilitate the expansion of 2 dog teams here in Kingston, which was a big thing at the time. It does cost a lot of money to run the program. That particular year, in 2009, I got called out some 45 times from home, mostly at 3 in the morning. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old at home, and it didn't go so well over at home, but I had some good success and managed to push through to get a second dog. So Jeff's been here ever since and handler, so that's been great. So we're celebrating, I guess, 25 years of K9. So I'll zip through here. So there's Jeff, and that's our emergency response unit as of today, or a few months ago. So I'll go through the K9 portion, then I'll talk quickly about the ERU as well. And like I said, if there's any questions at the end, feel free to ask. So I've talked a little bit. We started here in 1998, so we're looking at 25 years this year that we've had it. The OPP had a dog handler position in the old Kingston Township. Prior to amalgamation, and Kingston City didn't have 1 dog, so I think that's kind of what spurred on the city of Kingston getting a dog. We were trained by the OPP back then. Like I said, I lost my dog in 2006, which was a bit of an issue because it left us without any dog response in the city of Kingston. But we worked through that. In 2010, I've already mentioned, we expanded. And Jeff is with Dak, and I have Basque. Just you're going to get them confused. And they're both about 4 years old, and we call them general service dogs, which means they provide a they do a bunch of different tasks for us, tracking and drug searches as well. And just last month, as part of our succession planning, we actually had an officer go through the assessment course with the Ontario Provincial Police in Aurelia. It's a 7-day, very intensive course, and he successfully passed that. There was 11 candidates that started and 4 that finished, so we're very happy that he got through that. And he's slated to go away maybe next month if he's successful in the rest of the process for 18 weeks. So there's the 2 dogs and ourselves there. So just real quickly about what we do, we get asked all the time, what do we use these dogs for? So we track people, whether they're running from us for whatever reason or they're missing. Open area searches for people. We search for articles with human scent. We do building searches. We assist the ERU with high-risk arrests, and we do drug searches. And we do a lot of public demonstrations. You've probably seen us or heard of us back in the day. We used to do Sky's the Limit Festival. It was a big one downtown. And Grass Creek Park was huge, and we'd have thousands of people come to those. Now, COVID kind of, that stopped for a while with COVID, but we're getting back into that. As well, we assist outside agencies. So we've helped Belleville, CBSA at the border, the OPP as well, calls. So the first thing that we do here is tracking. So there's a picture of dog tracking. Basically, the dogs track human scent. It's skin cells that fall off your body. It's a hard thing for a dog to do. It requires hundreds of hours of training, especially on pavement like that. So I've just pulled some things that we've done in the past. So this is a call we did, I did a few years back now. I'm dating myself, but it was a robbery on Counter Street, and I was able to successfully find the guy and all the evidence from that. One of the other things we do is search for missing people. So this is kind of a call that I'll always remember till the day I retire. It was a 78-year-old woman in the West End. And I know we always talk that sometimes we find people in despair for whatever reason. And, you know, whether we would have found them or not, we don't know if we'd saved their life or not. This particular call, her name was Betty Elliott. It was January. It was probably -20 out. And we found her. And there's no doubt in my mind that she would have froze to death that night. And this is kind of what spurred me on to stay with the program, even through thick and thin, and to expand our program. And that was a letter that she wrote us back in the day. So that was a highlight of my career for sure. This was just another person that was distraught that we found with the dog. So drug searches we do as well. Just searching a vehicle. And like I mentioned, the public demonstration. So there's Jeff with his first dog, second dog, Zeus. And like I said, we usually have thousands of people attend these events, and they always like to see the dog bite people for some reason. I don't know if that says much about human nature or whatever. The drug searches are fine, but if somebody gets bit, that's the highlight. And we still get I've been doing it long enough now. There's grown adults that come up to me that were this high that went to these demos, and I can honestly say in policing, there's probably no greater PR type thing with the dogs than having them with the department. And we will do school visits and stuff, but these big demonstrations that we do are very well received. Call volume, so that's what I've been asked specifically to talk about. So we do typically about 75 to 100 calls per year, and that fluctuates. Jeff was off last year, most of the year for shoulder surgery, so that's going to affect our call volume. The majority of the calls we do assist patrol division, ERU, and our drug enforcement section is the majority. So I would say probably 75% of our work is there. And as mentioned, it's people that run from us for one reason or another, or people that have wandered off and in distress. We do have take-home vehicles. Like I mentioned, there's 2 of us. So we work a normal evening shift. Well, Jeff does. I'm working pretty much straight days now with ERU. But Jeff takes the dog home, I take the dog home, so they're part of our family. We spend more time with them than our families, for sure. But when we're not doing canine calls, we're on the road answering normal radio calls and what I call routine calls for service as well. And I mentioned what kind of spurred on the expansion, a lot of calls that year. And then the problem is, well, it's not a problem, but you have success and then you get called for everything after that. But, when we expanded with Jeff, what assisted us is that we were trained initially by the OPP, but then we went and started training with Ottawa. Every week we had to go to Ottawa for training, so we were unavailable for calls here in Kingston. So having Jeff here, we could train locally. I could do some mentoring with Jeff. I think I've done a great job. Yes. He's still doing it, so that's a good thing. And it gave us a break from the pager as well. And I always say, when I started this, I thought it was the most individual job in policing you could do. It was you and your dog, and you're going to kind of defeat the world. But it is really a team approach, and I found that out very quickly. You could have a very good dog and a good handler, but if the frontline officers weren't using you were using you correctly, or if the supervisors or administration weren't supporting the unit, and it is expensive, that perhaps the success of the unit would suffer. So we've always had great support, I would say, in the community, and from the Police Services Board and our administration, which I thank you for. So just some related issues real quickly. Obviously, the dogs themselves are expensive. We pay for vet bills and food. We need vehicles and stuff like that. It is the longest course in policing. There's nothing even close. It's 18 weeks away, so it is a huge commitment to be away. And we've lost dogs, and we've had people injured as well. So, and it is, I always say, it's more of an art than a science. For sure, the longer you do this, the better you get at it. So. There have been agencies close by that have lost their canine programs for this particular reason, the liability legal issues. These dogs can do a lot of damage if they bite somebody. So, yeah, we have to be very careful, and you want to make sure you're trained to a high standard, and the handlers that you're picking are good. And again, you know, your work, you have the dog every day off as well, so you can get burnt out from it. And recruitment, you know, I think a lot of officers nowadays are looking for a better life-work balance. I'm not sure how the canine unit fits into that, but we just went through a selection process, and out of our department, we had one eligible person apply, and he successfully passed. So I'll just go quickly through the emergency. I know you guys might cut me off here on my time, but I'll just talk really quickly about the ERU as well, just to kind of do a 180 here. So Kingston Police have had an emergency response unit since 1981. There was a bad call on Outer Montreal Street where the police were shot at with a high-powered rifle, and that kind of spurred that on. And most other agencies in the province at that time created their, I guess in TV they call them SWAT teams, but there's a bunch of different acronyms that we use. We're called the ERU, but back then it was a part-time team, a little bit of equipment. The officers worked in different units and got together for training and the odd call. In 1999, as the chief is well aware, the adequacy standards in the province came in, and basically they were designed to kind of have a standardized approach to major incidents in the province, and that kind of forced the hand of some departments to either do this or that or contract services out. And if you were going to have a tactical team per se, that you made sure that you equip them with the proper equipment and training. So in the province today, there's 3 levels according to the adequacy standards in the Police Services Act, which is now changing. There's what we call a containment team, PCCC, or a tactical unit or hostage rescue team status, and each level has different training and equipment is required. And we're considered a tactical unit at the present time. So that's the original team back in 1981. 1, 2, 3, 6 of them. An old man. So today, as of today, we have 12 full-time members, as well as myself. They work their own shift schedule, days and afternoons. We train every Wednesday. And when they're not training or doing tactical calls, they're out doing regular routine calls for service as well. We train a lot. There's 600 hours that are mandated to train every year, in addition to any courses or specialty courses that the officers must take. And we complete our own in-house selection process, and I will tell you that we're looking for motivated, fit people that are dependable, calm, under stress, problem solvers, and are willing to take on the extra responsibility with no financial reimbursement to do that. The initial training is 6 to 10 weeks for a tactical officer, and then they do a hostage rescue course after that. Just so you know, as far as specialties, like everything else in policing, everything's specialized now. There's a million different specialties in our world, whether it's the people that jump off buildings or fly the drone or be able to get through doors or be good shots and stuff like that. So that requires extra training as well. And the equipment's improved. It's expensive, but it's improved, but it's helped keep us safe for sure. And 2 years ago, the department purchased an armored rescue vehicle, which we have downstairs. We hope we never use. We train with it all the time, and it's basically a big shield on wheels that we use it for, and that's all. And I'm not sure what a human life is worth, but I'm really glad we have it if we ever have to use it. So that's just pictures of the guys training. There's one of our rappel guys going down one of the buildings. I'm afraid of heights. I don't ever do that. I sit in the office. I'm not afraid of dogs. I don't like heights very much. As far as work, we do anywhere between 50 and 100 specific tactical calls per year. Last year we did 68. This year we're at 35 tactical calls in addition to regular patrol calls on the road. We do everything from high-risk weapons calls, stuff you see on TV, I guess, barricaded calls. We had a stabbing on Fraser Street 2 weeks ago with a bit of a standoff. We were there on that call. A majority of our work comes from executing warrants for our drug enforcement section or street crime section. So, court security, we've had a couple high-profile court cases this year. We've provided security for that. Canine backup for high-risk ones. We also have 2 trained search managers, which is relatively recent within the last 6 years. The OPP have ERT and they have their true teams. Their ERT teams take care of all their searches. We don't have that here, so we've taken on that responsibility of looking for missing people, and we also do evidence searches. So we've done 3 evidence searches in regards to homicide investigations this year, and we assist other outside agencies when required. So last week, we assisted in Cornwall with the biker enforcement unit. There was a number of search warrants to be conducted. There was an outlaw motorcycle gang shooting in Cornwall. So the tactics and rescue unit from the OP requested our assistance to help with the search warrant last week. So we gladly help them because they come and help us, and the crime doesn't know boundaries within the city, so we're glad to help. So we've helped Durham, Belleville, Brockville, Kingston. So I know everybody thinks they're big city problems, that we don't deal with guns and shootings and all that bad stuff in Kingston. These are some of the firearms that we've seized over the last 3 years, search warrants. That's a 50 caliber sniper rifle on the back. And just another gun. So as I mentioned, we work with our command triangle, which is instant commanders, negotiators as well. And I will say, before I sum up here, we are way busier than when I started in 1999. We probably did 10 to 15 calls 24 years ago. For whatever reason, we are busier. It's my own personal opinion, we do see an emerging trend of handguns coming out of the bigger centers that are showing up on search warrants here. Back in the day, we were, if we found an old rifle that was sawed off, it was kind of now we're getting legit handguns that are as good as the ones we use. And a notable call would be last September, we actually had an extended standoff for over 24 hours. As a result of that standoff, the suspect fired a round from a .270 rifle, almost striking an officer close enough that he still has a piece of the bullet in his arm to this day. So a very dangerous call. I will say that our ultimate goal in this unit is to resolve every call as peacefully as possible. And even after him almost getting shot after the end of the standoff, that suspect was negotiated out of the building and taken into custody without injury. So that's what our goal is in our unit. And we may look like the military and have all the gear that looks that way, but our ultimate goal is to have calm, professional people take care of the call and negotiate people that would use less lethal means. So I'm very proud of the people in our unit. So that's just 2 pictures of officers on calls. That was a standoff on the left on Ford Street that went on for 10 hours. And we ultimately managed to use tear gas to get him out. I know I've probably gone over limit, but that's Indy. That was my second dog that Jeff took, the service dog, Indy. Hope I haven't cut into your timeline today too much for that, sir, but I don't know if you have questions.
Is there any questions? It was a good presentation. Thank you. Go ahead, Christian.
2 questions. One is whether we have a tracking system the way the TPS now does in terms of the origin of firearms, because of course this is a big debate about how much of these are straw purchases, how many of these come in from across the border. Some of these weapons show up different times in different places. Because I think that's helpful just for the public to know and for research purposes. And the other is that your team sergeant tends to be associated disproportionately with no-knock warrants in other jurisdictions. If you can perhaps explain how you balance the imperative of no-knock warrants with the capabilities sort of that the team has and sort of the concerns the public has around those warrants with the safety of the members on the team.
It definitely is it is a hot topic today. I'm not an expert on it. I can tell you that we have consulted with local crowns as well as federal crowns in Ottawa I think there's a rumor there that no-knock warrants are going by the wayside. According to the judiciary and the Crown Council in Ottawa, that's not true. But each case has to be based on its own merit. So I can speak specifically to Kingston, that each time we're requested to do a search warrant execution, not every door is done that way with no knock. Our special services, and Inspector Pete can talk to this perhaps, take each case on their own merit, and we have to weigh the pros and cons of how we're gonna ultimately seize evidence and arrest people that are wanted. But from our standpoint, we have a matrix, and we go through the matrix very carefully on the threat assessments. And yes, the no knock is not our first choice. It's a knock and announce. And if we can't do that, and we need to seize evidence that's important for the investigators, then we will do a no knock warrant, and we train to a high standard for that. The equipment that we use, whether we use distraction devices or not, all of that, whoever's writing our operational plans will go through me. So we have checks and balances, and then those go through the duty officer, the incident commanders, which is another checks and balance system with that. But it is a hot topic, but I think it's a rumor that's going around that that's by the wayside. I think what's happened is there's some bad case law in regards to poor note-taking, and I'm not gonna talk about other agencies, but we have to articulate everything that we do very well, and we will take everything into consideration, whether there's children, elderly, everything involved when we do that. So I think we're doing a good job with it, but we don't take it lightly going into somebody's home. I don't know if Inspector Pete.
No, and certainly just to follow up on that, and it is something that obviously in the information to obtain, you know, you've got to lay your grounds for all of that. And then it's heavily scrutinized by, as Sergeant Doak said, once that information to obtain comes in and a plan is established, then it's scrutinized by obviously the sergeant and the emergency response unit themselves, because they consult with each other while they're preparing to do something. And then it goes the next level up to the duty officer. And if there's no approval from the duty officer, then it doesn't happen. So, you know, I think there's a myth that the police just go out and do this in the public, but it's actually heavily scrutinized, and it's for safety of the people inside, the officers, the community, everybody. So there's a lot that goes into it. And then to your first questions, with regards to firearms, there's a robust system in Ontario through the Criminal Intelligence Service of Ontario. Firearms tracing, the FATE program. Every firearm that we seize is traced, and you know, where it traced right back to the origin of where it was possibly even manufactured, and then sold, and where it was sold from, where it was purchased from, and then of course you have the black market. But we can trace the firearm generally back to its manufacturer and manufacturing date. And there's a process to, you know, they grind off serial numbers. There's a process to bring those serial numbers back, so we can, but there's a very robust program. And then, of course, we're working in conjunction with CISO and, of course, alcohol and tobacco and firearms out of the United States. A lot of the firearms do come from the United States. However, now we're seeing a lot more created by 3D printers, and they're a little harder to trace. But we have a member as well who is involved with the Provincial Weapons Unit. And, you know, they just, Kelly was, I said that, right, Kelly? Yes. She was just involved in a very big case that had a ton of 3D manufactured firearms. So there is a robust program tracking firearms and working on it. So.
Maybe from HE for future occasion, maybe we can have a conversation with the person in charge, and so generally what's happening in the province on firearms, since that's sort of a hot topic, and what the dynamics are in Canada and the province locally.
Certainly, and I said Kelly when I meant to say Mel. So anyways, we'll get the right people in talking to you.
Very good. Is there any other questions? No? Good. Well, then I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Board.
Very informative.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Does the dog get a treat now for being really good?
Okay, then to continue, is there a disclosure of conflict of interest for today? No? Okay. And can I get an approval of the agenda as amended be approved with the 2 additional reports for the addendum. Thank you, Gail. Jimmy, good? All in favor? Thank you. And if I can get the motion for the adoption of the minutes for meeting 23-8 held on June 15th, 2023, be adopted. Gail, Jimmy, thank you. All in favor? Good. And then for the communications, that the following communications from the Ministry of the Solicitor General, Ontario Association of Police Services Board, Canadian Association of Police Governance, Ontario Human Rights Commission, and Office of the Chair of Police be received. Good. Okay, thank you. Christian, all in favor? Good. And is there any questions on any of those communications from those agencies? No? Okay. And then I would say that there's no delegations. Informational reports. May I have a motion that the following reports be received for information purposes? Good. Gail and Christian, all in favor? Thank you. And I'm going to ask if the acting chief would like to speak to any of the reports.
Certainly, if there was any questions, I know while I was absent on holidays, acting chief at the time, Greg Sands, prepared the reports. I appreciate that, Greg. If there's any specific questions, we're happy to answer them. It's a snapshot in time, quarterly reports, as we're required to do, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Christian, go ahead.
Without getting a detailed sort of appreciation of the reports, anything you want to highlight for us in terms of either continuities or changes in particular that might be of particular interest to the board and to the public?
I guess for us, when if we looked at our incidents that have occurred, it's a pretty, it's a snapshot in time, pretty consistent for the most part, but we see our, obviously, mischief to property offenses, some of our smaller, they're not smaller, but they're, let's say, less serious offenses. And we continue to work with as I say, it's 10% of the population committing 90% of the crime. And we're continually chasing the same people. And, I know the public's getting frustrated, and certainly the officers are getting frustrated because we're having a lot of interactions about why are you doing nothing about these people? And it's our system right now, and we're trying to work with it. But most of the people that are committing these are multiple offenders and repeat offenders, and it's the same people calling the same day about the same person, and it's almost Groundhog Day. And it's unfortunate, but we certainly are seeing that continue to increase, those type of calls. And of course, we're doing what we can to combat that. And I know certainly for downtown, which has been one of our priorities, having another person assigned to the beat is certainly working in that relationship capacity. And we have Crisco Bay down there more frequently now. And as we establish these relationships, and certainly with the DVIA and with the people who are down on the street, that's certainly something that we hope we can see in Q3, that by applying these resources at Q2, that Q3 we see a reduction. So we're going to work at that, and as it's outlined in our strategic plan, we'll continue to focus it. But that really, barring the more serious offenses, we're really just seeing that real continuation of the repeat offender system here.
Go ahead,
I'd
Christian.
echo anecdotally that I think that's bearing fruit, your strategy in the downtown area. So I think that's probably also something that's always worthwhile, continued updates. The other question, I guess, is suppose with regards to violent offenses, because those are the two trends that showed up during the pandemic, right there, the property offenses and the violent offenses, both up, whereas everything else was in decline. Anything there that you want to remark on?
Certainly, touching wood, we had an anomaly year where we had a number of homicides. We haven't seen that this year, and I say that with the best intentions that we don't see any this year. Once again, we do have a few more robberies that have occurred, and these are being committed by desperate people who are desperate at the time, generally substance abusers who are trying to fulfill their need. But we continue to see that, but we continue to work at it and work with it. And certainly, we have some news coming in the very near future with regards to some substantial drug arrests that have been made, and our drug units, our street crime units, our patrol units continue to do an admirable job out there, working with the community and trying to curb this. And certainly, we know that for example, the substances aren't being manufactured in our community, they're being brought to our community. So it's that, getting the information and then acting upon it. And, with Sergeant Doak here talking about search warrants, executing a lot of warrants, making a lot of arrests, doing a lot of street jumps and things like that. So it is a team effort. But like I say, you're trying to take the head off the snake. And if we can take the head off the snake, the other stuff will certainly work its way down. And that's what we're working at right now.
Do you find, like, in your experience of a long time, does economics play a role in the sense of times like high inflation, where people might have crimes against property or theft, things like that, just to...
Yeah, certainly. When you see costs skyrocket, then you're certainly going to see crime go with it. So, for example, a less serious crime we'd consider shoplifting. If you're a business owner, shoplifting is a very serious crime, but you have a lot more people going in now to steal food, for example, the grocery stores and things like that. And also, people who might have had enough money to, if they had a substance abuse habit, they had enough money to kind of work that they could pay their bills and do the substance. And now we're seeing it's either or, because it's, with the high cost of rents, with the prices going up, then it's a direct correlation for sure with specific type of things, including robberies. So you have your violent side, you have your shoplifting side, and that's it. And then as things kind of balance out a little bit, you'll see sometimes it's an ebb and flow. That's the way crime goes in any community. It's an ebb and flow.
Thank you. Any other questions? New business would be the August board meeting. I would suggest that due to vacations and scheduling, that the August board meeting be canceled and resumed in September. Can we have a motion for that? Good. Jimmy, Gail, all in favor? Good. Okay. Then August meeting in Kingston Police Services Board is canceled. I would ask if there's any other new business.
Can I speak to one?
Yes.
Thank you. Just a reminder, this Saturday is our community fun fair at the Kingston Police. It'll be in the backyard. We've got a number of things set up, including, barbecue, slushies, face painting. We've got a bouncy castle, balloons, obstacle courses, mini cars. We're gonna have a K9 unit demo. Good time for somebody to come out, and drone demo as well. We've got great participation from the police service itself. We've been out and tried to get as many people in the community notified. I know our core unit's been out specifically to invite people, and we've had it advertised. So 11 to 2 this Saturday, which is July 22nd. If any board members are kicking around, please stop in and say hello. We'd love to see you. And for the community, everyone's invited, and please come and check out the Kingston Police. We're here for you, and we want you to come in and ask questions and see what we have to offer.
We're gonna see the dog bite someone.
You will. Yes, I believe it's going to be a training scenario in which they use the padded suits, as you saw. So there will be a K9 demo.
Christian will be there. I'm going to ask to move in camera, and can I have a motion for that? Good. Gail, Jimmy, all in favor? And maybe we'll just have like a 5-minute break. Okay? Thank you.